Hello Internet, my name is Tim Downs and this is the Orc rig. This is a character animation rig that can be exported in FBX or Alembic or whatever other format you may need to be used in a game engine. I've tested this in Unreal Engine 4, so I know it works when you export this as an FBX or an Alembic at least. So you can animate this in Maya, export it, import it to your game, and it should be running pretty smoothly. So I'll be showing you real quick how the controls work, how you can pose them, and what all of the different channels do. At the root control, you can locate, rotate, scale, and the entire rig is scalable evenly. You don't get any broken poses when you scale the entire thing. We have the cog control, but you can also rotate and translate. But it also has controls for the spine. So you can switch the spine from IK to FK. You also have visibility control of either IK or FK controllers. You can have one or the other or neither on or off. And the IK layer has these locators. Now, why would you need these? So you can't actually do anything with them except control whether they're visible or not. The purpose of these little locators is, let's say you want to pose something in IK and then switch over to FK. Well, you could just try to match it up as best as you want, or you could, whoops, I hit the wrong key, could select one, select the other, go modify, match transformations, match rotation. Now, you might also want to match translation as well, but since I've got squash and stretch turned on for the IK layer, it might not look quite right. But then you can switch from IK to FK, and these two controllers, well, I've got other controllers that I would need to match. But the point is, you can see that the FK controller now matches the rotation of the IK joint. Basically, long story short, it's supposed to help you match poses between IK and FK, because there is no automatic IK-FK snapping tool in this rig, but if you had one, then it'd be easy to set up by having the IK locators and all the FK controllers be what get matched together. That way you don't have to go digging through the armature and looking for all the joints and the skeletons that are driving these, or that these controllers are driving. It'll be easy to set up some sort of add-on that you might have that sets up IK-FK snapping, or you can just use modify match transformations. Moving on, we have in the IK spine the hips. You can rotate, you can translate, and from here, we have a spine base in IK, which is really just a parent of this main controller up here, which we can move the translation and rotation, as well as control our squash and stretch with. So we can just turn that off if we wanted and just move the controller around. Then, let's see, we can move on down to the feet in IK mode. We've got roll and tilt, as well as space switching, so we can have it be oriented to the world, the cog, or the hips. And by hips, I mean these controllers up here by the hips, which are really just to control the IK and FK switching, as well as visibility, but you can also orient with them if you wanted to, let's say, use the hip space in IK mode. Then we can just grab this, and it'd be almost as if we're animating in FK, but we're still actually in IK. Just a handy little thing sometimes if you need to animate in such a way. In our FK layer, we also have the same orientation control, IK-FK blend, and the locators, just like on the spine. If you want to match between the two modes, we have the pull vector target, which also has its own space switching, so it can follow the hips, or it can even follow the controller, so we can move it like this. Now, moving on up, we have the pectorals, which are really just sort of a tweak controller for a little bit of extra muscular movement. If you were to control the clavicle by selecting actually this, but it's a parent of this controller as well, or you can select both, you can translate it and the pectoral will move along with it. on 2 different axes. Speaking of the clavicle control, it's a combination of a clavicle and a shoulder controller. So if you select both, you can move the clavicle, but then also orient the arm group, which is very similar to how this controller works. So you can sort of think of it as the equivalent of the upper body limbs. So we have the IK and FK controls and visibility controls up here. You don't necessarily have to use this to orient, especially if you're in FK mode, because then when you orient in either FK or in IK, when you lift the arm, then the deltoid controller will automatically rotate with it. You can still move it and rotate it as well if you need to, just for that extra bit of muscular posing. You can control the IK locators, and in IK mode, we have squash and stretch as well. Same controls, turn it on and off, or you can have one or both of the other. And we have space switching, and we have the finger visibility. In the fingers, we have the grip target. So if you want to have him hold something like, say, an axe or some other prop in your animation, you can just parent it to that or snap it with match transformations. And in the actual finger posing, it's nothing fancy. There's no driven keys. It's just these controls that have rotation, and some have translation in case you have an extra necessity for that when you're posing. And the metacarpals as well. Same pull vector controls. We can have the world, shoulder, or IK handle be its parent. And moving on to the neck. The necks don't have world space controls, but we do have, space switching controls, but we do have that in the head. So we can have that be in world space, control the neck, and now the head stays in world space orientation while the neck rotates. We can control the visibility of the face controls and the eye controls. The eye controls can be moved as a group or as the individual eyes. And the same goes for the eyelids. In the face rig, we have an extremely basic facial rig. That's just the jaw and some driven blend shapes. So we've got some cheekbones, some eyebrow movements. It's really just 3 different eyebrow blend shapes. So you can make him surprised, you can make him angry or confused. The corner just adjusts whether he's smiling or not, but everything else pretty much goes to help him lift his lips up and down so he can be snarling. And the jaw is just a parent of those controls, and we have a very basic tongue chain of controls. And we have the ears just for a little bit of fun. So he can't exactly be lip synced, but because he's just sort of a big brutish type character, I think that more often than not, you're just going to need to make him growl or roar or smile or smirk or something. So he doesn't necessarily need an extremely fancy fax-based facial rig for the context of what he's made for. As for him controlling the axe, we can move and locate it as we please, but we can also set its parent to be the right hand. He is a right-handed character, meaning if we were to select the axe, select the grip target, modify, match transformation, and then make it child of the hand, we can have him hold it with one hand, but let's say you wanted to have him hold it with both hands. Well, then you'd have to pose it just right, but the point I'm trying to illustrate is you can actually set the space for the left hand to be the axe. So when you have this set up, then you can have just the right hand drive the axe and the left hand all at the same time. This can be very useful when you're trying to animate like a two-handed swing of the axe without having to counter animate the axe or the other hand. It only works one way though. You can't have the axe be in the left hand and then have the right hand be a child of the axe. that would create a cyclical error and break your animation and make Maya give you one of those big scary warnings at the bottom of the screen down here. So that's how the weapon works. You can also make it join up here, create a parent constraint, have it join the little mount on his back, which is just a child of the spine joint here. But real quick, before the end of the video, there is one very important thing that I need to explain before you try to export this as an FBX. So let's say you've animated the entire rig and you've got all your animations set up and you're ready to port it on over to, let's say, Unreal Engine for your game. Well, you would think that you could just select the geometry and then the armature, which is what these sets are for, and then go on over to Export Selection, tick the boxes that say Bake Animation and Blend Shapes and all the other stuff you're going to need. That's not going to work, unfortunately, because all of the blend shapes are being driven by driven keys. And for whatever reason, that seems to break the blend shapes and the geometry when you export it. I don't know why. It's very frustrating. I don't know if it's Maya or just FBX format in general, or if it's some other thing that I haven't accounted for. But to prevent any trouble when you're exporting it, you're going to want to open the shape editor, which is normally in the sculpting tab, but up here I put it in my rigging shelf, just because I use it a lot when I rig. What you're going to want to do, this is after you've animated everything. You've got all your animations set up. Well, actually, first off, you're going to want to increment and save, or save as a new scene, just so you back it up and keep things safe, or else you're going to run into problems later. You're going to want to open the shape editor, right-click the blend shapes, select blend shape node, right-click in the scene so you can open the wheel menu, go to key, bake simulation. And I'm not going to do that here because then that'll break all these connections. But basically, it will pre-bake all of the blend shape animations into keyframes on every frame, just like when you bake animation in any other circumstance. And you'll want to do that for both of these. So right click, select blend shape node, and then key, bake simulation. Or you could bake the entire scene if you want, and I'm pretty sure that'll do the same thing, but it's much more direct and simple, and I found that I get the cleanest export in FBX format whenever I use this method. So that's just something you'll have to keep in mind, is when you've created a new file just to save your work and back it up and everything, when you export the FBX, you want to break all these connections, or more rather just bake their keys. And then you can click here, select set members, and then control click, right click, select set members, and that's all you'll need to export for the FBX. If you go into the files where I've uploaded this rig, you will find an FBX file that is basically exactly what I exported, just following these steps. It should come out the same way. The materials will probably not be working quite right because the texture files are all in the Maya scene or the project document in, I think the file is, or the folder is called source images. That's where you find all the textures, just like it says in the README file. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I just needed to make sure, let it be known. You cannot say that I didn't warn you when you try to export the FBX that you have to bake the blend shapes first and then export it. It's very important you do that, or else you might get very confused and frustrated. So, with that being said, let me know what you think of the rig. Any questions, comments, concerns? Have you used it? Is it working good in your game? Have you animated it? Is there any features you wish it had? Do you wish the face rig were a lot more complicated? Or do you think it works just fine, having him be kind of scary and funny looking? Or is there something else that you think I should do next time for my next rig? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I thank you for your time watching the video and checking out the rig. Bye.